Bob Harrison Wellness and Advocacy Center, which was named for Commissioner Harrison. This serves the older constituency of District 6 and is helping to anchor economically depressed Northwest Huntsville. Commissioner Harrison envisioned the center, led the effort to get it built, and drew up the basic design. I would like to introduce Commissioner Bob Harrison.
Thank you so very much, Judy, for the introduction. I'm reminded of a story that I once heard about a gentleman, politician, who was speaking to a group of individuals at a country golf club. And the guy got up to start to speak, and two of the good boys decided that this was a good opportunity for them to sneak out to the bar to get a drink. And so they were sitting there, and after about an hour had passed, another guy who was inside came out, and he said, "What's going on?" He said, "He's still talking." He says, "What on earth is he talking about?" He says, "I don't know, he's still introducing himself." So thank you for the introduction. I'm glad I didn't have to do it. I received from Pam a text message about some of the things that I was to talk about. In fact, I was rather... Here's a handbook about what we do. I wish I could get my other 7 commissioners to read it. Life would be so much better. But I thought what I would probably do is just to give you some basic kinds of things that relate to what we do and how counties came about and so forth. Counties really are a subdivision of state government. A lot of folks forget that when you start talking about the hierarchy, even in the protocol of when they introduce people, they always want to introduce the mayor and the city council before they do the county commission, which is protocol, as far as protocol, is wrong. It's nation, state, county, city. They descend from early England, Saxonshire, the Norman Conquest, 1066. It's when they were established. As units of government, they were established 17th century, and they're called counties in the United States. There are 3,069 counties, with the exception of parishes in Louisiana and boroughs in Alaska. And they all exist as functioning units of government in every state. However, no county governments exist in the states of Connecticut or Rhode Island. The average number of counties in each state is around 60. But Delaware has only 3, and Texas, of course, has more than anybody else, 254. Moreover, here in Alabama, we have 67. Now, it's fundamental to understand county government that we must all have one basic kind of understanding. Not any individual member of the county commission that performs governmental actions is more important than the other. Not even the chairman, even though sometimes he thinks he is. This means that no member of the body can make individual decisions affecting the county, particularly with regard to the expenditure of public funds, the creation or the elimination of county programs, hiring or firing of certain employees, granting of permits or other authorities under the county's regulatory authority. There are 7 commissioners in Madison County. 6 are elected at the district level, and the chairman is elected at large. The chairman only votes in case of a tie. And I think this particular chairman hasn't voted since he's been there, maybe once or twice. District commissioners all run at one time. That's Alabama state law, y'all. All run on the presidential cycle. Now, the power of county government is only that which is granted by the state legislature. The legislature principally gives county specific authority that it must be able to enact local laws or referendums. The powers and authority granted to counties come in various forms. They come through constitutional provisions. They come through the general laws of the state. And thirdly, they come through local laws enacted by the legislature for the benefit of one county. That's what we call local legislation. That's where you get your local delegation to pass legislation that is specifically going to be for the benefit of your community. Sometimes that's more easier said than done. The benefits are few and far between by having it that way. And with an antiquated 1901 Constitution, it's virtually damn impossible. County government is designed to limit government, and the Constitution was personally written to restrict and prohibit counties from exercising home rule. In other words, they want to run every dadgum thing from Montgomery. Okay? That's the name of the game. I don't care what it's cost to say. It makes no sense for you to have to vote on a fishing license in Bellevue, Alabama. Okay? Then there is for them to vote on whether or not we're going to launch a missile in Huntsville, Alabama. Now, that's just what we're dealing with. These restrictions of local legislation, I've been on the county commission this is 13 years, this is my 4th term. Okay? And I have personally asked for a referendum from the legislative delegation for there to be an amendment for home rule, some form of self-governance over those total 13 years. That allows us not to have the ability to do taxation, not the ability to do zoning, permitting, or even what we do with license fees for garbage or animal license fees that we receive have to be dictated from Montgomery. Now that's basic county government 101, y'all. Now what is it that we do with what they tell us we can do? The list is vast, and the duties are voluminous, ranging from collecting and distribution of taxes, conducting elections, selling of driver's licenses, building and maintaining roads and bridges, providing 911 and emergency services, county health departments, county and state environmental regulations, industrial and economic development, providing of county health departments, development of social services, trash and garbage collection, provision for the elderly and the poor. Now, the 1901 Constitution of the state of Alabama says that there are 2 primary functions for a county commissioner. One was to be able to have all highways, byways, roadways, pathways free and clear for the progress and the transgression or the moving of goods and services across the county and state. That was the first provision. Second provision says that it must be prepared to take care of widows and orphans. Now, that the widows and orphans portion has not been exercised much by many folks. But I took it literally. That's what I do because I have a community garden that I plant 60 acres of food. I have an association with Society of St. Andrews with the Methodist Church, where I deliver last year we disseminated over 3 million pounds of food across these northern states of Alabama. That's why I have a clothes closet. That's why I have former offenders program where we assist over 2,000 felons who come out to re-assimilate to society. That's taking care of the widows and orphans. Now, one of the questions that Pam asked is, what is the relationship of the Alabama Madison County State Legislative Delegation and the County Commission? And I said in my 13 years, I don't think we met on average of once a year. It's pathetic. Okay, everybody's doing their own thing. It's my thing, do what you want to do. Nobody can tell me what I need to do because this is my thing. That's how they roll. But when it comes to issues that are really significant, we have a major chasm because of the inability of people to come together for a common cause and a common purpose. In my opinion, there has been inadequate contact and much dysfunction in these organizations. And in addition, one might include that there is much dysfunction within those governmental bodies as well. Okay? Was mentioned in the introduction, in 1988, the consent decree, one man, one vote under the 1964 Civil Rights Act, which was 1988, the Civil Rights Act was 1964. So what's the difference, 64, 88? What's that, 34 years, 36 years, something like that? Okay. 24? It took 24 years after the Civil Rights Act, one man, one vote, to get a district or representation on county, state, and local entities in Madison County for African Americans. 25 years. 26 years. 26 years. Okay? And I know the person who did the consent decree. He's a friend of mine. And he proudly boasts that it was uncontested. Well, hell, after 26 years, there doesn't be any custom. You know what I'm saying? I mean, nobody should say anything about it. I love you, Julian, but 26 years we waited around for this thing. Okay? But nevertheless, 26 years, we got a consent decree. But that consent decree is really interesting because in the brilliance of the judge didn't want it to be just a figurehead position. So what he said was, most of the county commissioners have what they call sheds or districts. So they've got millions of dollars they do for road constructions and those kinds of things. The urban districts, which originally under consent decree were Faye Dyer and myself, or Faye Dyer and Prince Prayer, have urban districts. Most of the roads and streets are done by the city. So we don't get that money, okay, the urban districts. We get money from rooftops, which is another distribution formula that sometimes ain't fair. But when I came in 2004, my budget was $150,000 a year. Okay? That was what my discretionary dollars were. But being the fighter that I am today, my budget is in excess of $1.4 million. And generally I can do what I want to do with that. Okay. The Harrison Center, which is a $10 million facility, okay, has come about as a result of being able to leverage those dollars with other dollars in order to be able to facilitate that. Now, in 2008, how the Harrison Center came to be, Barack Obama, after he was elected, came up and said that we're going into this economic recession. And there are folks who are saying, well, we weren't going to have a recession. But the data that I read that says if 10 days after Barack had been president, if he had not taken the actions that he took, if you had gone to an ATM and put in your ATM card and asked for a cash distribution, it would have said, sorry, funds not available. Okay? But in the Reinvestment Act, they offered $50 million to Madison County for what they called shovel-ready projects. Let me just back up a step. In 2004, if you come to my office, these ladies will tell you here, there's some yellow paper on the wall that I did in 2004. And I designed that facility in 2004. I did the budget and everything, the configuration, all of it on the wall. I hired me an engineer to do the engineering. I hired an architect to do the design, even though I didn't have a quarter. I didn't have a nickel. But in my mind, it was in my heart, it was something that I knew I wanted to do. In 2008, President Obama came with the Reinvestment Act. He gave Madison County $50 million, and he said they must be for shovel-ready projects. And I go, whoa, whoa, I got one. And when I submit my application in record time, I got the results back, and that's how that facility was built. Now let me tell you one other little interesting thing. The $50 million, I got $4 million of that money, $4.5 million. And I got some other money from some other sources and from my budget, and that kind of thing. 1.9% interest. Okay. Now, what the other $46 million that could have been used for Madison County, my 7 commissioners decided to send it back. Nobody won't hear you. My other commissioners decided that they were going to send it back. I'll probably get hung for the saying this, but I'm telling you the damn truth. Okay? You shall know the truth, truth shall set you free. They sent it back, you know why? It was Barack Obama money. It was Obama dollars. Actually, it had the subscript of Kenya right underneath it. But when I spent mine, there was no problem. Sent it back. Went back to the state. Now, they didn't have full confidence that I was going to be able to do what I did. But I finished my project on time, and I finished my project with a surplus. And I took that surplus and I did a lot of nice things that a few people didn't get there. It's one of the most beautiful facilities you've ever seen in your life. Okay? It's beautiful. It's beautiful because I had a vision. Okay? I had this vision of wanting to do something that would be unique, picturesque, that would provide to the community something to reflect on and be proud of, and to reflect who I think I am. Lots of sunlight, lots of openness, lots of vision, and my 2 favorite colors, okay, which are coral and turquoise. Field trip. Field trip. Field trip. You got it. You got it. Okay. Now let me get back to the script. Now I'll answer any questions that we have from this point on, but I want to take a little liberty. and which I hope Pam would ask me to talk about. She did ask me about was there going to be a Democratic successor to my position when I retired, and I assured her that my district will always be Democrat. And the reason I know that, in my last time, now let me tell you something, I ran 4 times before I won. And that's persistence. Okay? But I tell folks this, I never lost a race. They say, how do you say that? How do you say you ran 4 times and you lost before you won? How did you not live? Every time I got a platform to say what the heck I wanted to say. I had an opportunity to be able to convince people who didn't believe me in what I said. There are naysayers out there, you know. And those naysayers, oftentimes, it takes a long time to get them to believe in what you're doing and what you're saying. So you got to work at it. Okay? So I ran 4 times, Parker. 4 times. And never lost the race. And that's the way you ought to be, you know? And then folks say, well, there he comes again. You damn Skippy, here I come. So I encourage all of these folks who have political ambition, you know, to jump up and get in the race. It's not, you don't lose. You gain traction every single time, okay? First election, I won by 160 votes. My last election in the primary, I won with 78.6% of the vote. In the general election, I had 2 opponents and I won with 92.7%. Take brag, just fact. Now, as I said, here's the part, and I hope I don't offend anybody, that I wanted to talk about for the whole time. But we'll make it short and sweet. But the reality of it all. What is the reason that we got ourselves in this catastrophic situation that we're in? How the hell did this happen? How did it happen? Okay? The worst political situation that we've been in the history of America. Since the Obama administration in 2008, we Democrats have lost 69 congressional seats, 13 Senate seats, and over 1,000 seats in state legislatures across America. Republicans control 7,383 state legislative seats, up 12% since 2009. Republicans in the 2010 midterm cleaned our clock with victories, with double-digit seat losses for Democrats in New Hampshire, West Virginia, and Arkansas, my home state. All posted a 50-seat gain. In Alabama, we saw a mandate given to non-politically tested Republicans, like, God forbid, Shadrach McGill. Shadrach McGill, who filled out his qualifying papers in the barber shop on Sand Mountain the last day of qualifying, and who beat a 20-year seasoned political boss, Laurel Barron, overwhelmingly. And now the ultimate calamity of modern time has occurred, the election of Donald J. Trump. Jesus. The election of the most incompetent, sexist, racist, Xenophobic? Sadistic? Masochistic? Narcissistic? Mentally deranged? Human being? Massive protoplasm? He's worse than Richard Milhouse Nixon ever was. To ascend to political power in the world's the greatest nation in the world. How did it happen? Worse than Benito Mussolini or Sieg Heil or Adolf Hitler. Why did this happen to America? The America that we all love. How did Democrats let it happen? Because y'all did it. You know that, don't you? Y'all did it. Y'all. I got kind of upset a minute ago. Somebody brought a blue sign up there and talked about blue dots. If we don't stop calling ourselves blue dots, Democrats are yellow dogs. You know what a yellow dog is? Do you know what a yellow dog Democrat is? Huh? These babies don't know. They don't know. A yellow dog Democrat means if there's a Republican and a Democrat, a Republican and a yellow dog and a Democrat on a ticket, I'm voting for the yellow dog rather than the damn Republican. You follow what I'm saying? Okay? We have got to get away from being the mediator. See, Democrats are too nice. You guys are too nice. You are too nice. We are too politically correct. We are so intelligent, we just gotta hear everybody's opinion about things. We have got to be able to have all sides. If we don't, then we aren't being fair. But while you're being fair, you're getting your clock cleaned. You've got to get to a position and remain committed to that position. We've got to stop being wusses. We've got to stop being too politically correct. We've got to stop being too gullible. We want everybody to be happy. We've got to be able to learn to call a spade a spade. We haven't learned to call that friend that we have lunch with that voted for Trump and said that Hillary was a crook, that they are an idiot, okay? And that they need to go somewhere and find what the heck's going on. Or that person who you go to lunch with and her husband demeans and disrespects her, that doesn't, and telling her you need counseling, but instead of her, no, you don't need counseling, you need to go get a lawyer and get a divorce. We've got to go to those people who sit at a bridge table and hear folks demean minorities and talk racial slurs and those kinds of things and just sit there with your hands folded and quiet to be able to tell them to shut their racist, bigoted mouths and pray for salvation. Democrats do not tell it like it is. And as a result of that, we've lost our identity. We've lost the respect. We don't even have respect for one another because we don't even know among ourselves. What you can get a poor Republican and a rich Republican, they're saying the same damn thing. And how they do that, I don't understand it. But at least we share and have more in common, but we don't know what each other is thinking. We're not communicating with one another, and we're not communicating with other people to be able to establish our position. And as a result, we're disrespected, and we're bullied by those loud-mouthed, idiotic Republicans. Okay, and even our presidential hopeful, Hillary Clinton, failed to call a spade. When she retracted on the statement that the majority of the population that were being polled, who said that they were voting for Donald Trump, were the least educated, the most racially biased and bigoted, and insensitive to democratic principles and ideologies, she wouldn't apologize for it. Okay? Instead of standing her ground and letting folks know that that's who voted for it. And that's who voted for it. And that's who we're dealing with now. It's all of these folks who are running up and down the highway with their Confederate flags, and these guys sitting in corporate offices who are doing the kinds of things that are subverting our democratic process. Now, there's a common denominator here. We've got to ask what that common denominator is. And in examining the data and looking at the time, all of this happened since 2008. We've lost 2,000 state and political congressional seats and put Donald Trump in the White House. What is that common denominator? My friends, it is the racist backlash of the ultra right-wing organizations, the Breitbarts, the alt-right, the Heritage Institute, the conservative evangelical movement, the surrogates of James Falwell and Billy Graham Jr., and the many other racist, xenophobic organizations in America. And it's all in opposition and response to the election of a black man, Barack Obama, to 2 terms as president of the United States. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. No ifs, ands, buts, and reasons. That's what it's all about. And that's why you keep coming back and you ask them a question about the day, and they're still deflecting what the hell went on 8 years ago. And blaming Obama for what the heck. I couldn't believe it that he's blaming Obama for the dadgum Russian interfering with the election. That is the most asinine, ridiculous thing in the world. We ought to be mad about it. We ought to be outraged about it. We ought to be speaking up about it. We ought to be acting out about it. And when Mitch McConnell said that it was his primary purpose to assure that Barack Obama would be elected to a second term, that should have told us something then. That should have told us something then. And since that time, what we have seen is the subsequent political lynching and castration of 8 years of what history, because this is only a perturbation in time. This is only a modicum. This is only a ripple. Okay. And that ripple is because what? Because America is becoming one. It's becoming one even despite those other 40% folks who are objecting. Okay? America is becoming homogenous. And as a result of that homogeneity, we're going to come together. This will be just a mere ripple it might not be within 10, 15 years, but it's going to be something that folks will reflect back on and ask, why the heck did that happen? How did this happen? Okay? Now, history will record that Barack Obama was one of the most qualified, moral, ethical, dignified, trustworthy, and respected world leaders in the history of the world. We traded class for trash. And when you start talking about trash, you can't be dignified when you talk about trash. We're going to have to tell it like it is. We're going to have to speak up and speak out. Act up and act out. Never give up, never give in until we win. Resist, 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 resist.
Bob can answer a few questions, so if we have any questions. Cindy?
Bob, you mentioned you have a program that works with felons, and we had this new law. Can you talk about what you're doing to educate them about what they can do, and also, is there something that the party or Democratic women can do to help in that effort?
Well, there's still so much confusion in the state of Alabama in terms of the exoneration of felons in terms of the restoration of voting rights. And this is one of the voter suppression efforts that's being used by the party. The law says that you can only be denied your voting rights if you are guilty of what is considered crimes of moral turpitude. Now, the problem is even when President Governor was Secretary of State Health, she wouldn't define what moral turpitude was. Okay, she would not give a position on what it is, and to this point, we really don't. So I'm a part of a national lawsuit that's suing 5 states across America for not having it such that when an individual completes their punishment, their sentence for the crime that's been committed, that there is an automatic restoration of no rights at that time, then that's a violation of national law. So we're in the process of doing that now. That suit is in progress. It was being done by the National Voting Rights Association. But one of the things that Ms. Sams, who directs the program, does that we find out, and she can probably answer this question a heck of a lot more thoroughly than I can, and that is that there are a lot of crimes that are committed where they haven't lost their voting rights. They just don't know that they haven't lost them. So that's where maybe you could come in and be able to provide information, direction, and instruction to be able to get those folks recruited to go out and vote.
There is a list now, so
Okay.
I'll make sure Alice gets that.
Okay.
If she doesn't have it.
Okay.
No, I don't have it, but previously,
Speak up, Al.
somebody new coming to the program, if it's something simple, before the list came out, I would just register them, let them fill out an application, and carry it down to the Board of Registries, and let them input it, and they could tell me, if they were eligible to vote. I went down there one day, and there were a group of students from a high school, and they were telling them that don't ever get in trouble, because once you get in trouble, once you get a felon, you can never vote. And I had to say, no, that's not right. And I had 5 applications in my hand, and she went in, I said, and put these into the system and see, and all 5 of them were eligible to vote. But they weren't. So it has to start with education from the Board of Registry, because they're misleading. But I've got a lot of people in the program. I just insisted that they were. I knew that if they just had a possession charge, then they didn't ever lose the right to vote.
Let me ask you something. When they're on probation, they go see their probationary person. Are they paying a fee or something? Does all that have to be? I was told that had to be paid off before they can.
That's what's called restitution.
Restitution, right?
The law that we're suing now says that there must be a separation between the criminal sentencing and restitution. They cannot be a part of both. That in other words, the restitution cannot be a part of the criminal. It can be civil, but it cannot be a part of the criminal record. Okay, so which is different. In other words, it's like debtor's court. Hell, you can't put me back in jail because I didn't pay you your restitution. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry.
If they had a felon that was not affected by the law, like if they had a felon for possession, they did not lose the right, so it didn't matter about the list.
Okay, back to the back.
Does the focus program give felons, ex-felons jobs?
Yes, ma'am.
What's the procedure for getting jobs?
Procedure is to come in and enter the program. Once you've entered the program, there's a process. And Ms. Sams makes the determination of what your suitability is. We have other educational opportunities too as well, where you go through GED training, that kind of thing. Now, in 2011, when we had tornadoes, in here, the worst tornadoes we've ever had, I received a federal grant of $1.3 million. It was supposed to be for 6 months. I stretched it out for about 2.5 years with FEMA because I kept getting renewals and renewals. And what we did was we hired all ex-felons to to do those jobs to clean up the debris.
Oh, wow.
Okay? We've collected data over that period of time that showed that there was an inverse proportion in minor crime and employment. I have a collection of letters and notes that if any of you at one time want to really have kind of a reckoning, an epiphany of how it is to change one's life, you want to sit and just get into a person's mind. I have individuals whose lives were changed as a result of that one job, okay, that then it translated into other things. I got folks working at Toyota, making $28, $29 an hour. Got folks working at Sanmina, warehouse hours, and in a whole bunch of different places. As a result of having that one job, that their lives was changed. I had one gentleman, Mr. Bone, who came into my office and wrote one of the most soul-searching letters that I've ever heard. He said, "You don't know what you did for me and my family, and what you did to reinstate me as being the head of my household."
Wow.
First step. All of that is basic and fundamental to the redoing of the human dignity of an individual to be self-sufficient and for them to be in control of their own future and their destiny. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. And unless we worked in order to make that happen, we're missing the boat. Yes, ma'am. Well, let me just tell you this. That sort of takes care of itself because we've had a number of folks who have gone through the program who went to Drake Technical School for 2 years and got an associate degree, and then were able to get Pell Grants and scholarships. And one of my bragging rights is that one individual who was a major drug dealer in Madison County, whose father I know personally for a long time, ended up being valedictorian of his class at Alabama A&M University and receiving a bachelor's degree. So if you want to talk about changing lives and impacting people's lives when you give them, I want to tell you one little story, I'm going to let you go. I feed 600 folks at Christmas time every year. Enough food for 2 years. 2 weeks. 2 years would be nice. But I use, for my garden, I've been ridiculed for it, but I use inmates from the county jail and from Limestone to help with my garden. Okay? Now, I say, why not? But I've got criticized for using cheap labor. You know what I'm saying? But when it comes to a common cause and a common person who's doing something good and is not for profit, to me that's the difference. That's where the line of demarcation is. Now, these guys come over and they work every day and they work hard for FWF. You know what FWF is? No, Free World Food. Free World Food. They come in, we feed them like the kings. Lunchtime they go out and they work up until lunch, and then they go back after lunch. And if they're lucky and we got leftovers, they can take them a little backpack with them. Okay? I mean the fried chicken and the fried fish and the cornbread, and y'all know all this stuff that y'all eat over there at that center that y'all ain't supposed to be. But they work out with it. But that's what they work for. But what I wanted to tell you about was this one guy who was giving these baskets out to these folks at Christmas time. And so I saw him standing over there. And it was one of those kinds of situations where, you know, the elderly ladies who couldn't carry their big bags because we give them vegetables, bags of collard greens and bags of sweet potatoes and bags of corn and whole bunches of other things that, that we grow. And he was standing there and he was crying. He was just boo-hooing his head off. So I walked over to him and I said, "Young man, what is your problem?" He said, "I've never done anything like this before." He said, "I've never done anything to help anybody before." He said, "And it's an emotion and feeling that I've never had." He said, "I've never had this." So I put my arms around him. I followed that kid. He came out of prison. He got him a job. Okay? He's married now. He's got 2 children. He's been productive to society. Okay? All because of osmosis, or whatever you want to call it. He was around somebody that was trying to do good for somebody else. And if you know what? If we all try to do that, we might change this world.
Wow, Bob, that was really wonderful. Thank you so much. I think we need to nickname him the heart of Madison County Commission. I have a couple of announcements that I'd like to make before our drawing. And our first is, tonight there's going to be a bipartisan Senate candidate forum at the Rock Family Worship Center at 6 o'clock. And I have been encouraged for Democrats to turn out for that. Now on August 3rd, our luncheon here, we're going to have a mixer forum with every one of the Democratic candidates that are running for this special election for the Senate. So I hope we have a great group for that. I hope we have a sellout crowd. And y'all remember that it's going to be August the 3rd. Also, we're going to have in September, if you want to hear more about the good that's going on in Madison County, Alice Sams will be our keynote speaker in September. And don't forget, special election is August the 15th. And the last day to register is the end of July, the 29th day of July. We've got our buckets on the table. If you've got any loose change in your pocket, please donate to the scholarship fund. And I would like to now introduce Ms. Arnetta Cole, who is going to do our door prize drawing.
Okay, time for the fun stuff. We're going to have a drawing for those who prepaid. And I'd like Commissioner Harrison to pick a name. Oh, this is wonderful. We got a new member today, and she won. Susan Kirkpatrick. Come on up, Susan! Now, Susan got a book, and it says, "What the Trump? We shall overcome. A sane person's guide to surviving in the age of Trump." All right, congratulations. Okay, we're going to have Commissioner Harrison do the honors again. Okay. Bryn Stilson.
Twice in a row.
Come on up.
Look at me. I never win any.
Okay, see? And now Bryn got a Hillary Clinton bobblehead. Congratulations, Bryn. Okay. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you all for coming so much, and special thanks to my task force group that did such a wonderful job today. And you are dismissed.
I have an announcement.
Oh, I'm sorry, Carolyn has an announcement.
I really must say
need you guys to save the date, October the 7th. I'm scared to say it, Bob. Blue Dot Mall. I'm scared to say it. We'll talk, Bob. But guess what? You'll get to see the beautiful Bob Harrison Advocacy Center. It's gorgeous. That's where it's going to be. Here. So please mark that date. Save the date. It will be great. Tina Turner Review, a comedian. I told him to tear Trump down. Tear him down. And it's going to be great. So I'm going to be looking for all of you to come and bring someone.